Discover the career of your dreams. Learn how to get your foot in the door, stand out, and create the life you desire. This is our time. This is our adventure. I'm Siobhan Colleen. This is Industry Explorers. Welcome to another episode of Industry Explorers with Siobhan Colleen. Today, we have Pharns Genece, who is the CEO and founder of Unmanned Systems Operations Group Incorporated. Pharns is a former U.S. Air Force medevac with 18 years of experience. He is a highly trained flight nurse, certified to administer critical and emergency care for patients during flight rescue operations, and he is formerly an audio engineer and technical lead at the Walt Disney Company in Anaheim, California. His interest in UAVs spans many years. He has flown numerous UAV platforms, including those he has constructed. As a graduate of the Miracosta College UAV ROV program, he further expanded his knowledge in unmanned systems and the UAV business. He is an FAA Part 107 remote pilot, holds an FAA daylight waiver for night operations, a top certified pilot. He sits on the CompTIA Drone Advisory Board, and he is a member of the FAA safety team. He has combined his medical, technical, and leadership skills with his passion for UAVs and founded USOG, a leading systems integration company specializing in the drone medical delivery sector. Welcome, Pharns Genece.
Thank you, Siobhan. How you doing?
I am wonderful. You and I actually go way back. We worked together when we were both at the DisneyLand Resort. And I just remember you being a stellar technician and a wonderful person and just someone that I could really trust and open up to. And you're just like a wonderful person all around. I got to say it.
You're too kind. Thanks. And, my experience hanging out and working with you was awesome, especially those long nights that we had at the Haunted Mansion and just the friendship and camaraderie. And your mad technical skills, especially your rope skills, and your rigging. Yeah,
Thank
girl.
You. Thank you so much.
I remember when you were going through the training at the warehouse.
Yeah.
That was fun. Just watching you, be monkeying around on the ropes.
Yeah. And I actually ended up failing that evaluation, believe it or not.
They just didn't love you enough.
Nah. No. But so I am very excited to learn more about your background. Now, currently, you're the CEO and founder of USOG, and it's a drone medical delivery service. And here's what I think. You are the OG. I mean, you are operating a business that is at the cutting edge of technology, and you are a leader in this industry. And changes that we're going to see and the trends that we're going to see, you are part of that and you are leading that. And I think that is so cool. And it's really amazing to have you here. Let's take it all the way back to when you were in high school. Did you have a dream job in high school?
Oh, man. Did I have a dream job in high school? I was just kind of a nerd in high school. So a little background. My family is from the island of Haiti, and I'm first generation here. And so with that in mind, I wore slacks to school. I button down shirts and slacks until like my junior year of high school. And I don't think I wore a pair of jeans actually until my senior year. And that's how old school my family was. Mom went to Catholic school. Dad, was from a family of missionaries. So it was really prim and proper, very strict family. So I was the geek. At the same time, I participated in speech and debate. I was part of the band. I've been playing piano since I was 4 or 5 years old. And that experience playing piano sort of led me into where I am today. So fun stuff.
So what was your plan after high school?
Well, I don't know where I got this idea, but I wanted to be a corporate raider. I wanted to buy big companies, split them up, sell them off, and make tons of money. And that just seemed so glamorous and exciting to me, but it just didn't work out that way. I think later on in life, things kind of changed, and I was just like enjoying life and trying to see what was in it for me. But my first love was electronics engineering. That's where I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm. Did you end up going to college?
Yeah, but not for electronics engineering. Actually, I first went to, was it Mount San Antonio College, and I enrolled in music and then electronics courses, basic electronics, jazz piano. And at the same time, I was working for my dad and all his businesses. And, I just didn't really take it. I just wasn't a fit for me then. So I, just stopped going.
Mm.
And then later on in life, I went back to school and then got my degrees and stuff. But at the time, it wasn't for me.
So at the time, you left school. And is that when you joined the Air Force?
Yeah, pretty much. Rebellious teenager. Was working for my dad's companies, his businesses. I knew everything on the planet, like all of us young kids do. Then several years later, I went into the Air Force. I went in the Air Force much older than most people do. That was one of the best experiences for me. Then that's how I got into medicine, was through the Air Force.
How old were you when you joined the Air Force? Because a lot of people enlist when they're as young as 17, 18, 19. That's pretty common.
So I was about, I think I was 19 going on 20.
Okay.
When I first enlisted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cutoff ages for any of the branches is early 30s, right? So even if you didn't join the military straight out of high school, there's still opportunity for you to join all the way up until your early 30s. But the cutoff age varies a little bit. It might be 32 to 34 years of age, and you just got to check with the branch you're interested in joining.
Yeah, it's not only that, but also depending on the job that you're going into in the military. I had two choices. I could go full on active duty or go reserve. And I was kind of chicken. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. So I started out by going reserve. What they didn't tell me was before I was doing reserve time, I had to go active duty. So, yeah, either way, it was a great experience. I was active duty and for several years, I think it was 2-3 years for all my training. And then I started doing reserve duty. And for the job that I did in the Air Force, doing medevac, it's more than 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks out of the year. Medical training, we also have to keep up our flight proficiency. So you're constantly flying to stay current. You're always getting check rides. It's constant training. But some of the best opportunities, some of the best travels that I've done.
I can see with your background in piano and your interest in electronics, how you eventually gravitated towards audio engineering. But what inspired you to gravitate towards medical, to the medical part of the military?
Interesting that you asked that. So growing up, my grandmother came to live with us from the island of Haiti, and she only spoke French and Creole. And so I was her translator. Every time, she'd walk to the doctor's office, I'd go with her, I'd translate. And then later on, my grandfather came, and so he lived with us as well. Grandma got sick, and she ended up in the hospital. And she ended up dying with an esophageal varices. They did surgery. There was a bleeding in her throat. She passed away. And I swore up and down, left and right, I would never step foot in the hospital ever again after she passed away. Still brings tears to my eyes. But yeah, I never wanted to step foot in the hospital again. A couple years later, I was at a position where I was living on my own, wasn't really digging life, didn't have money to go back to school. And I'm like, the heck with it. I'm going to go in the military and I want to fly. I want to be a pilot. I didn't know you had to have a degree to become a pilot. So I go to the recruiter and she's like, well, you can't be a pilot, but we can get you in the medevac. And then from there, it's a stepping stone to do whatever else you want. You already have flight experience, 9 yards. Medevac, sure, whatever that is, I'll do it. Yeah, well, guess what? I end up in nursing. So the first part of the training is all, basic training, then all medical and nursing skills. And not until you complete all of that, then you go to the flying portion of aeromedical. And that's how I got into medicine. And probably one of the best things I did, because I absolutely love helping people and I love medicine. It was just a blast. I really enjoyed it.
And you did end up stepping foot in maybe many hospitals?
Many hospitals. Many hospitals as in the military, many hospitals, civilian side, and then literally in a C-130, C-141, or pretty much any aircraft we could put a patient on. Basically, we turned it into a flying hospital. So hospitals were my life for about 18 years.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy how you vowed to never step foot in another hospital again, but then that's exactly where you ended up. And
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I think your passion for helping others was just it was like destiny, if you believe in that.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing: is if you want to make the universe, God, or whoever laugh, tell the universe your plans, and it'll completely change it.
So you did active duty, then you became a reservist.
Mhm.
At what point did you get involved in the entertainment industry, and how did you eventually end up at the Disneyland Resort?
I would have to say the entertainment industry has been in my blood all my life. I've been playing piano since I was 4 or 5 years old. And my piano teacher, Miss Nathan, God rest her soul, amazing teacher. I started out as a strict pianist. Once I got the basics, then she allowed us to play pop music. And what she did was from the get-go, we went to nursing home to play for other people. There'd be gigs around town she would take her students to go do. And I was one of her students that did that. And you're familiar with the La Mirada Theater, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's a statue out in front of the La Mirada Theater called Canto 79 that it looks like a clef note.
Mm-hmm.
I played piano for the opening of the reveal of that statue.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I was about 13 years old when they revealed that. And so I played the opening of that. And then several small productions at the La Mirada Theater. So music, entertainment, it's always been part of my life.
I find it fascinating that even with music and entertainment, you were performing in nursing homes. So in a way, the medical industry has always been part of your life in some form or another.
Thank you. I never thought of it that way. Wow. Yeah. So true. So true. And so it's just kind of always been there. But I started out playing piano when I was, 4 or 5 years old. Got interested in computers and electronics. And my first computer was a ZX81. You've probably never seen it or heard it. You can look it up on the internet. You're going to go, what is that? It's a computer that to load the game Pong on it, you literally had a cassette tape deck. You push play, and it took about an hour to load just the game. No, half the day actually, just to load the game Pong on it. Okay.
Oh my gosh. With everything that we can do today with computers, technology, the cloud streaming, that just seems so archaic.
It was, but it was the beginning of computing.
Yeah.
Then I graduated to a Commodore. I don't know if you know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Then a Commodore 64, then the old school Mac, and then the IBM. So I've been through the iterations of computers. Now, what had happened is with that love of computers and that interest, but I also enjoyed music. I think it was the Commodore 64 was the first computer that I could create music on.
Okay.
And so that turned into wait, I play piano, but I can make music on a computer. And then that's when those two started combining to each other. And as technology progressed, next thing you know, now I've got a laptop. I got a complete home studio in my laptop. But that was the beginning of my music and entertainment and all that coming together for me.
And how did you end up at the Disneyland Resort?
So I came off of, I finished my reserve duty, had a couple of other different businesses, and the market crashed. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to go back to medicine, but I've always had a passion and love for music. I'm going to go back to school to be an audio engineer, full blown. And I went for it. And then at the time, I was going through a very unique divorce. And so instead of getting mad and angry all the time, I took that energy and put it into school. And thank goodness I did. So while I'm in one of my classes, there's a guy, my buddy Josh. He works at Disney at the time. And he had told me that, hey, Disney's looking for audio engineers. So I'm like, okay. And he's like, they're hiring, dude. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm never getting in there. Well, at the meantime, I'm going to school, a company here locally that Maceo, who you know as well, is working at, Morningstar Productions. He's working there. I get an apprenticeship there, and I meet Maceo. And then all of a sudden, my first gig ever putting up some truss is with Maceo. Fast forward, Josh convinces me to apply for the job. I apply for the job. 3 months later, I hear nothing. 4 months later, I hear nothing. I'm like, well, I guess I didn't get the job. So graduation day, Silly me. I have a hat. I have the Mickey graduation hat where it has the ears and little, cap and gown deal. I wear that to graduation. I hadn't heard anything. I'm probably not getting the job. Whatever. I wear it anyway.
It's
So
adorable.
we graduate on a Friday. And then Monday morning, I get the call, you're hired.
What?
Yeah.
God, like 9 months later?
It was like 6-7 months later. Yeah.
Oh
It was
my
crazy.
gosh.
Oh yeah, it was crazy long. But yeah, that's how I ended up at Disney. But in that whole meantime, I was working at the Bob Burton Theater, a local community theater for the school district. I was working at Morningstar Productions. So, I was getting experience. But I think what got me into Disney was being paramilitary. I graduated pretty much, straight A's. And I guess Jerry liked me.
Yeah.
But it was a great experience. And, I think my military background and what I had brought to the table kind of made it happen. And the experience was great. Loved the people, worked with some stupid, crazy, amazingly talented individuals, such as yourself. And,
Thank you. I am stupid crazy.
But the crew that we worked with some of the most amazing, talented people. And so just sometimes the work hours and everything else was just insane.
Yeah. So how many years were you with the Disneyland Resort? And then what inspired you to leave?
I was at Disney for about just shy of 5 years. Just shy. Going into Disney, I knew I was going into Disney for an education. I knew I wanted to learn what it took to run a company like that, what the departments look like. I went in knowing that my max time at Disney was going to be 5 years.
Wow.
If you're going to learn from the best. On the outside looking in, Disney's the best. And you don't know what you don't know until you get there. And I got to tell you, Disney is great at a lot of things. And there's, like any other company, there's things that they're just not great at, or they probably missed the mark.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot. And I would attribute a lot of my systems integrations knowledge, or probably the foundation of that kind of helped me do what I'm doing now. Because we're primarily a systems integration company based around a UAV platform. So the 5 years I was there, great. And I still talk to everybody on our almost a weekly Zoom call now. And why I left was starting this company. I had a bigger mission. Our mission is two things. There's only two things we do: saving lives and public safety. That's all we do. We don't deliver pizza. We don't do anything else. If it's medical assets and it's saving lives and it has to do with public safety, that's all we do, period. And I knew I had a bigger mission.
So for USOG, when was the idea for your company conceived? And then when was the birth of your company?
I was attending Maricosta College, their drone program. I already had my drone pilot's license or certification. I was already flying, and I wanted to expand my knowledge in the industry. So I took the class, and it was really, I'm glad I did, because it exposed me to a lot of connections and industry people now that I know. I was in the class, and they showed a YouTube video of a company called Zipline. And this company uses RC aircraft, regular RC planes in Africa. And what they do is they'll fly to a location in Africa, and they'll drop off a package via parachute and land nowhere in Africa, and people get their medications and what have you. I saw that. I'm like, that's cool, but that's kind of stupid, because it'll never work here in the United States, because, somebody's going to roll up and just steal it. And the night before the graduation from the Maricosta program, I woke up in the middle of the night. I think it was like 1:20 in the morning. No, 1:18:23, because I had to type it in. And I woke up and I said, that's it. Unmanned Systems Operations Crew. I could deliver stuff accurately from point A to point B in an urban area. And yes, medical, kidneys, blood. And then my medical brain started kicking in with what I could do with transporting these assets. Because instead of transporting an entire patient like I used to do in the military, I can transfer the assets from a centralized location to the patient, or, anti-venom. I think the whole, it's about $1 million for a complete regimen for anti-venom if somebody gets bit by a snake.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in San Bernardino, you get bit by a snake, the EMTs come and pick you up, take you down to the local hospital. They have to medevac you from there to a hospital that has the anti-venom, let's say Loma Linda. Then, that's a good chunk of change. And then the family has to come down then the insurance has got to pay for all that and the whole 9 yards, and it costs like $1 million. But what if you're in the San Bernardino Mountains? They take you from there, they bring you to the local hospital. At the same time, the antivenom is coming to you versus sending you to where the antivenom is. Well, you've cut out the cost of the helicopter. You've cut out, putting up the family, a ton of costs. And so that thought process went through my mind. It's like, I'll just move it, period, end of story. And that's kind of how the ball got rolling. And now at the stage that we're at with conversations and things that we're doing, and especially with the San Diego Blood Bank, they're doing very specific blood treatments where they'll take a blood sample from a patient, send it to the blood bank, they spin it, test it, and get very specific down to what antigens, what properties the blood has. And then they'll match that to a very specific blood from a donor that matches, and then send it back. But the challenge is it needs to be fairly quick because it's critical. Traffic, Southern California traffic.
Yeah.
That trip that could take, half hour one way, half hour another way, I could do it minutes. So on average, I say I can go a mile a minute, and then I double it just, to be safe. But literally I could fly a mile a minute, which alleviates a bunch of problems. There's another opportunity that we're working on right now at a cancer center. They have to do the biopsy and get the biopsy from the hospital to the lab within 1 hour, and they can barely do it because of traffic. That same trip I can do in 10 minutes. And so these are the things that we're looking at doing and helping.
You're not only saving costs, but you're also saving critical time for patient recovery and patient care. And that's priceless.
Saving the patient's life.
Yeah, that's absolutely priceless. Let's back up a little bit. In what ways has your experience in aeromedical evacuation with the U.S. Air Force contributed to your ability and potential within the drone industry?
I think it almost has everything to do with it. Almost everything. So most people look at the drone industry. Oh, you guys get to fly drones. That's all you do. You're pilots. Woohoo! No, that's the easy part. That's the easy part. One of the things that I do, and just like any airline pilot, we have what they call a TO checklist, a takeoff checklist. Anytime I fly a mission, boom, I open that checklist up. All right, batteries charged, check. Props good, check. That entire list. I had to create that because it didn't exist. And the basis for that, from my experience in the Air Force, every time we flew a mission in the Air Force, we had our briefing. Before I do a mission, I have a briefing. We know the weather. We know where we're going. We know how to check the airspace. All that experience all comes from the Air Force. Also, being that, especially my main aircraft was a C-141, we would take all our equipment on board. Well, imagine if you flew a mission and let's say you put all your medical supplies on the right side of the aircraft for this mission, and then the next mission, you put it on the left side of the aircraft, and then another mission, you put it in the back, and then you never know where anything is. So in the Air Force, we knew specifically where everything was all the time. To include on my body, I knew where my trauma shears were. They were always in my right pocket. I always knew where my checklist was. I mean, everything on my person was always in the same place at the same time, every time. It's the same thing with the drones. All my equipment, all my gear, everything that I do is consistent over and over and over again. Number one, in case of emergency, we automatically know where it is. Number two, we know the routine because every single time we don't do it by memory. We go through our checklist every single time. So, and that's just the practical side. And then understanding the medical aspects of it, not being a surgeon or a doctor or anything, but just understanding the basics of why are, blood samples need to be moved in a certain way, temperature affects, all these things. How do I speak to a medical professional so they understand what I'm trying to convey to them? And I'm not the only medical individual on my team that has a medical background. There's myself, and then I have another individual as well. So all those experiences from the Air Force absolutely play into everything I'm doing today. Even understanding the aerodynamics of UAV, I understood the aerodynamics of the plane I was flying in. Because, I just kind of want to figure out how it works before I live half my life on it. Also, the exercises that we did on board the C-141. To this day, I could tell you where the number one overhead escape hatch is. I know where the troop door is. I know in the rear of the aircraft, above in the silos, there's 2 emergency rafts. And I can pretty much tell you almost everything that's in those emergency rafts. To this day, umpteen years later that I've been out. So understanding where the emergency equipment, understanding what does what and where it goes, it all plays into what I'm doing now. Because we're not just a UAV, just a drone company. We're literally creating this as a logistics company that is actually an airline. That's where we're going.
How does your experience as a Disneyland Resort audio engineer and technical lead contribute to your ability and potential within the drone industry today?
Wow. That's another big one. My main home at Disneyland was a show called Mickey and the Magical Map. And Mickey and the Magical Map had great crew. So we had a stage that would open and close. And being as part of one of the technicians at Disneyland, you didn't just do your specialty. For me, it was audio, but you did everything. And by doing that, I worked on lighting. I worked carpentry. I even sewed at Disney. I worked on the big stage. I was under the stage with the mechanics and understanding the programming, the speakers. I'd had to take speakers down, take them up, and put them back together. When somebody blew out tweeters, Hilmo, it's a joke. Hilmo's going to kill me for that. But anyways, but doing all those things, and everybody thinks audio is, hey, patch people here and it goes there. No, we're using networks. We're using fiber optics. We're using all those things. So by integrating and watching all those systems work together, allowed me to really frame how I approached UAVs on, I wanted to do this, but I have this. How do I integrate them? Okay, well, I got to go learn Python. So I did. So I taught myself Python. And that experience in working at a haunted mansion, watching how we broke up all those teams to create an overarching goal, allowed me to create teams within my own company to reach the overarching goal. Having times at Disney where some of our leaders didn't communicate what the project was, it was like, just go do that. Well, it kind of helped if I knew what the whole project was. And I had some leaders that were really good at telling us, this is the whole project. This is your part of it. So we understood how we fit in. Other leaders just go do that. Big difference on how you feel about the work that you're doing. And so all those lessons from Disney, I try to apply to my company.
It sounds like with Disney, you learned more about leadership and communication. You learned a lot about that during your time in the Air Force, but with Disney, it was a new application, new scenarios, and then you just got to take that knowledge a little bit further. And that's really crucial. And I love how you said the difference between, a good leader and a better leader of a team is the way that you communicate the job. It's better. It sounds like it's better to communicate the whole scope of the project. Just what is the end goal? And then here's your part of this whole. Here's how you're part of a bigger picture. Here's how you're part of something bigger than yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that makes a difference. If I tell you to go put in 4 screws in that panel over there, you're going to be like, all right, whatever. But if I tell you, okay, here's the overall, we're building a giant robot. This giant robot is going to save the world. And those 4 screws are critical to keeping the power going to the robot. You're like, I'm the screw guy?
Yeah.
I get to save the world? Yeah, let's do this. And you're going to do it to the best of your ability versus, hey, just put in those 4 screws.
So it sounds like these philosophies and values really tie into your company that you've built.
Yeah, they really have. Man, I got to tell you, I got an amazing team. My team just rocks. I've got Jennifer, who's my medical liaison. She comes back. She comes with a load of experience with IT health plan, and she was a pharmacy lead. Mm-hmm. And her medical knowledge on the pharmacy end and just blows me away. And it's great because, that's one of the things we'll be moving is medications and her understanding the insurance and the billing. I have Mark, my chief engineer. He comes from Boeing. The guy's a mad genius.
That's amazing.
My business strategist or business development, business strategist, marketing kind of guy, Jeff, he comes from the Navy. He was a former SEAL, EOD tech. And comes from the Marshall Business School. He keeps bragging about it, but no big deal. I have Houston. Houston, my goodness, this guy, amazing. He actually went to the program I went at, I was the first cohort. I was a guinea pig. Well, I found Houston, he was in the fifth cohort. He's kind of like my great grandkid from the course.
Great grandkid? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, great. Yeah. So anyway, he came from that program, and my goodness, I got to tell you, this guy's extremely talented. He worked as an auto mechanic. He did a bunch of different jobs. And when it comes to the drones, we're in a cycle of developing and creating stuff every day. So one day it'll be like, hey, Houston, we're doing this. Okay, got it. Gets it done. And then it's like, oh, by the way, we're going to do this. And he goes, what? I'm like, okay, here's the big picture. Here's Fonz's crazy vision. We need to do. All right, let's do it.
I want to go back to systems integration real quick. I do have more questions about your team, but I want to go back to systems integrations. How is it similar from audio or the entertainment industry to what you do with drones? You'd mentioned that you had to teach yourself Python. Can you kind of describe, I suppose, some of like the similarities and differences between systems integration in those two applications, entertainment versus drone industry?
Easily, yeah. Let's see. So Mickey and the Magical Map and a lot of shows at Disney run with backing tracks, okay, for your live entertainments. And especially with Mickey and the Magical Map, it's critically important that everything is timed accurately. The stage moves, the lighting, the audio cues, everything all at the same time. So what you have is we run a show on a time clock and time code generator. There's a master code generator, and that code generator tells every device that's running in that theater, we are at 0. We are starting the show here. And then throughout the show, at different time points, it says, audio booth, here we are. We're here, and we're going to start the music. Lighting, we're starting the show. We're here. Stage, you need to open at this point and close at that point. So with that being said, we have a master clock that tells everybody where they are throughout the show. Now, my board, as an audio engineer, has to be able to talk to that time clock to understand and see where the lighting is. And it has to know where the stage is and what point in time in the show. Coordinating all that is not easy. It looks like magic, but that's why they call it Disney magic.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to integrate those systems and having them talk to each other, understand each other, whether it's via MIDI versus time code and whatever it is, it makes the show look seamless when you actually have multiple systems working together. Okay. How can I make that even easier?
I think that's beautiful, actually. And there's a lot of keywords that you mentioned, like MIDI and time code, SIMPD. And if someone is interested in learning about what that means, you can look that up. Just do a Google search. Again, at the end of every episode for my outros, I'm going to invite people to look through the show notes and click on any resources that are related to this show. So there will absolutely be resources for people to learn more about those keywords and what those systems are and how they relate to the entertainment industry and what they look like. So do you use those same systems when you're telling your drone, pick up this package, lift off, go to this location, land safely? What does that look like now in the drone world?
So how that looks like is, by the way, other thing as an audio engineer, especially for a show like that, we're using wireless microphones. So we got to understand the frequencies of everything that's happening. Okay. I say that because now I'm going to relate all that to the drones. So number one, you have a drone. It's a basic drone, 4 propellers, 4 motors, 4 ESCs. And then you have a flight control computer on board. That flight control computer is controlled or receives input via a receiver. And you have a handheld transmitter that tells, hey, I want to go up, down, left, right, So that's the basics. So when it comes to automating a drone delivery system, and we don't use the word autonomous because it does not think for itself, and the FAA doesn't like that word either. So we have a basic flight computer, and all it does is take care of how the drone flies. So now I have to add what we call a companion computer, which is an additional computer on board the aircraft. Now, this companion computer can do all kinds of things, everything from a camera. It could sense if there's an object in front of it. It can compute via a camera, what we call a time and flight camera. It can compute the distance of things. It can do all those things. But what's really cool is that I can program a mission on that companion computer, and then that companion computer talks to the flight computer and tells it what to do. Now that the flight computer is doing whatever it needs to do, it sends in return to the flight computer what it's doing. So if it needs to adjust, it will adjust. So it's a really nice communication back and forth, bilateral communication. So that now we have an automated system. So you have to learn how to integrate the flight computer into the companion computer into the flight computer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's take that another step further. You and I can FaceTime on a phone. We can be anywhere in the world. As long as we got a signal, we can communicate back and forth. So the other thing that I added to the computer, the companion computer, I've added a 4G, 5G LTE modem and Wi-Fi.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So now I can communicate to that computer, the companion computer, via the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So I could sit here, my drone could be with you, and I could literally fly my drone from my keyboard here. And because now I'm connected, I can stream the video directly to me so I can see exactly where I'm at. And now that I have that computing power and I have communication and I'm connected to the internet, I can create what they call a point cloud. A point cloud is a 3D vision of where you are.
Mm.
And by storing that information from what the camera sees into a point cloud, now I know where I am in 3D space all the time. So I don't even need GPS at that point.
Okay. Okay. So as the drone pilot, how do you know that you're going in the right direction and that you're getting to the right hospital when you're above all the traffic? Because it's not like plugging it into Google Maps and then it tells you turn right here. Here, let me do my best here. Turn left. No, I don't know. I tried.
Turn left. No, I said your other left.
Make a U-turn.
So we do things, okay, just like the aviation, we use the same maps that they use for manned flight. We can get an address. We can find the actual coordinates, lat and long, and that lat and long is where we're going to land. But we plan every mission. So if I'm going to go let's say I'm in Temecula, if I was going to fly to Anaheim,
mm-hmm.
Guess what? I don't think I'd be following the 5 freeway. It's a little congested. I might go towards Elsinore and go over the Ortega, a lot less people, lot less congestion. So we plan for those things. That's what we do. And understanding the altitude of the buildings nearby. If there's a school here, if not. And then, by the way, we can't fly freely in every airspace because there's air traffic that we have rules that we have to follow as well. So when we ever do a mission with planning, we also have sensors on board where the drone won't run into something because it senses it's there. We have laser altimeters where we absolutely know how far above an object we are. So all this information is graphical on board a screen or on our controller itself. And we manage all that by pre-planning every mission, to include having parachutes on the UAVs in case of emergency. So we can pop a chute, it comes down, hopefully safely. And then when we plan a mission, we have places to ditch the aircraft. Like, something's going on, we're going to ditch it over here where we know it's safe. So we plan and mitigate for all those things, just like a manned aircraft would. Actually, probably more than they do right now, because we're such a brand new industry and we have to prove to the FAA that we can do all these things safely before they allow us to do more.
That's like, that would make a really good analogy to how women have to, or any minority group has to do more to prove that they can do everything that just about anyone else can do. Good analogy. I think I'm glad we're recording this because I need to use that.
Okay, so in order to fly at night with a UAV, you have to get a very, very specific waiver from the FAA. I've had mine 2.5 years, and I had to write a report on. I understand what flying at night entails. I know I have to have lights. I have to have visual observers. There's anomalies that can happen at night, and here's what I'm going to do to mitigate it. It's almost like writing a thesis to get this waiver, but I did. That was like 2-3 years ago. This month, the FAA came out with a bunch of new rules. And one of the new rules is that, guess what? You don't have to get a waiver now to fly at night. Why? Because all those of us who went through that process, no accidents, period. There hasn't been any. So the FAA said, well, I guess, you know what? We'll just get rid of that waiver for night flying. And now we can fly at night without the waiver. Of course, you still have to do all the safety precautions, which hopefully everybody does. But we know there's always mavericks out there.
Yeah.
So now we don't. And so we've race, and that's what we're trying to continually do. My company, we've developed a cargo carrying system, a multi-package delivery system that's patent pending, and nobody else has done this. And we're just releasing it to the public now. And we've gone through and vetted this thing left, right, upside down, and packages we're carrying are not going to fall out of the sky, at least so far. I can't guarantee it, but I'm pretty darn sure we can. But packages won't fall out of the sky. We're constantly testing. We're constantly upgrading. We have another company that's using our system right now, giving us more feedback, and we're testing so that we are safe. And we're trying to go above and beyond what the FAA would ever require of us.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to give us a rating and a review. Share your favorite industry insight on your social media pages, and be sure to tag @IndustryExplorers. For more Industry Explorers goodies, go to youcanfollow.me/Industry Explorers. That's youcanfollow.me/Industry Explorers.